Hello, friends, and welcome to the show. Happy Tuesday to you. It is such a treat to be here with you. Thank you so much for joining me. If you're joining me on the replay, a big hello to you as well. I'm so excited that you're here with us because we're live and you're joining a live level up conversation.
Welcome to Level Up with Winnie Sun.
Great to have you with me today. I am Winnie Sun, your host, Forbes contributor, CNBC council member, and award-winning financial pro. Here to keep you on top of relevant, important business news. But most importantly, you're part of today's show, and we are always monitoring your comments, and we appreciate them. So keep on having them come in. Today, I wanted to tell you we have a very special guest in mind. And actually, he's someone I've been wanting to meet for some time. I think we've actually been connected on LinkedIn for a bit. But let me just tease this to you. He's the co-founder and partner of Talent, the leading next-generation management firm that is known for its successful and diverse creative talent. The company represents over 200 of the top YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Twitch, and Snapchat content creators. He's definitely somebody you'll want to meet. I'm excited to welcome him in just a moment, but you know how it works. Before we jump over to him, we got to talk about how the market closed because a lot of things happened today. In fact, I want to tell you, unfortunately, there was I wish the news were a little bit better, but I feel like I can tell you that it did actually get a little bit better because earlier in the day, the market was down tremendously. It certainly improved a bit. And if you followed yesterday, you know how bad yesterday was. Today, still triple down day. The Dow closed down 184 points today. The NASDAQ closed down 35 and the S&P was down about 30 points as well. Of course, we're hoping for better days, but and as far as we know right now, there's so many other things that are continuing to pull the market down. We know what's happening in the Ukraine. We know that COVID hasn't completely passed us as well. And inflation concerns continue to be top of mind. In fact, the S&P rebounded today following yesterday, which if you remember, was the S&P's benchmark historically worst close since October of 2020, with sky-high prices in Los Angeles and other parts, and probably in your neighborhood as well for gas. Actually, the reason I say Los Angeles is because yesterday there was an article that actually showed a photo that gas was over $7 a gallon. And if you've been following the news, you know that this is actually going to get worse before it's going to get better. So commodity prices, because of what's happening in Russia, we knew that crude oil now has exceeded $120 a barrel. But don't forget, it far exceeds just oil. The other thing that we're going to be seeing impacted is on two things: wheat and also metals and other materials. So that could periodically, and it could be sooner rather than later, cause the prices of vehicles yet to go even higher. And we know that's already been an issue because of inflation and everything else and during COVID and supply chain issues. So if you're looking to buy a car soon, probably not going to be great news. But on the important thing, we have a very special guest. So I want to bring him onto the show. Hello, Reza. How are you today?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Well, I am so honored to be able to share this time with you, my friend. We are really in for a treat. So let me just share a little bit of your bio, if you will, because it's so impressive. So Reza Izad is the prior to co-founding Talent, and we talked about how large his company is, and you probably need some numbers because this is impressive. He's a co-founder and CEO of Studio 71, a multi-platform powerhouse media company that produces and distributes original entertainment programming for platforms such as YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, TikTok, and probably everywhere else. The core business is content creation and advertising and combining digital first creators and brands together. And the company is also the number one YouTube partner in minutes watched. Now, to give you an idea how big his company is, in 2015, the valuation was $185 million. But actually, That's actually a small number, because later on the company's valuation then grew to $425 million. And since the initial investment, revenue has now grown by more than 7 times. So incredible numbers, Reza, and congratulations on all your success.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
I'm sure it wasn't easy, and I'm sure a lot of people know that. I'm guessing there were a lot of sacrifices involved in your journey. But in celebration of you, I was hoping we might be able to take a moment and ask you to maybe talk about, and let's start from the beginning. Tell us about how you got to this position, and maybe a little bit about the journey.
Sure. I mean, went to college, and I had it's sort of my dream was to go work in the movie business. So if you asked around what was the best way to go do that, everyone said you need to start at a talent agency. And so I started my journey, like so many people before me, working in a mailroom at a company called the United Talent Agency. And I was promoted to become an agent at a time when Interpublic, the ad agency, had tried to buy the company but couldn't. And there was just a large retainer relationship sort of set up between the two companies, such that we were starting to advise them on essentially how to get ahead of the 30-second commercial in television. And the reality is, in the mid 90s, getting ahead of the 30-second commercial in television was very hard to do. And so we sort of pivoted that relationship into helping them execute brand work with musicians, right? And I had a number of clients like Bausch and Lomb and Kenneth Cole and Nike, the division called Brand Jordan, we did a lot of work for, and they would pay us a consulting fee essentially to help them sort of do their entertainment activities. And that sort of over a 2-year period of doing that, 2-3 years, it pivoted into sort of me starting to work directly with musicians themselves and clients themselves. And so I built a very nice roster of talent while I was working at the agency. So I represented Prince when he was the symbol, he was the artist.
Wow.
I worked with Eminem from his first album all the way through 8 Mile. I was involved with the music from Oh Brother, Where Art Thou, which was a pretty significant touring and sort of music project tied to a movie, which was kind of interesting. And so I was kind of, going along that path. And in 2002, 8 Mile came out. Oh Brother had sort of come to an end. And I was looking forward, and I thought maybe it would be a good time to pivot to something new. And so a good friend of mine was starting a management company at the time called The Collective. And I joined him. I think the company was about a year old. And I joined him at that business. And the thesis at the time, and this is kind of a slightly different thesis, but you'll sort of see how advertising and what I'm about to say sort of connects. The thesis was disintermediation was starting to happen, right? Napster was starting to really hurt the record companies, 2002, 2003, 2004. And platforms were showing up. And at the time it was, the Friendsters of the world, very, very early, Facebook, things like that, were coming in and starting to disrupt. So you could see a world where talent was able to go direct to the consumer. And the thesis of The Collective was going direct to consumer. If you could build the right ecosystem, managers who historically partner with their clients as producers, but don't partner, deeply in the business of their clients from an ownership point of view of the content. Maybe we could give it a shot and try to own something alongside our clients and give everyone sort of a better economic stake in the pie. And so we started that journey. We had a lot of success. We built a pretty robust music management firm, during that period. So we represented bands like Linkin Park, Enrique Iglesias. We worked with Slash from Guns N' Roses. We worked with Kanye West for several years. And what was interesting is we sort of got a lot of business like this because we were really forward on the digital marketing side. Mm-hmm. And so this is right around when YouTube. So I'm now skipping forward to 2009. And in 2009, the early YouTube, first generation YouTube creators we started working with them. A gentleman in our office signed a guy named Lucas Cruikshank, who created the character Fred on YouTube, which at the time was the biggest thing on that platform. And since we were more traditional content people, we decided to do a Christmas album with him because if you know the character Fred, many of you might not, but if you do, it was a very high pitched voice that he put on in the character, and so someone said it sounded like a chipmunk, so we naturally said let's try something out like a Christmas album like the Chipmunks had done. And so we did that, and it was quite successful. We connected YouTube and iTunes, very, very rudimentary relative to what's happening today, and sold 100,000 copies of that album, or of the downloads of the singles. And then we decided to maybe put some of that money to work that we'd earned on that project, to fund what became the Fred movie. So we brought in a well-known producer named Brian Robbins, and we started the process of packaging the Fred movies, which we jointly funded. And in 2010, I believe the Fred movie was the highest rated movie in cable. And that was a pretty big thing because this had come from a small, part of the, internet ecosystem, right? It was YouTube in 2010. And we'd really been able to see sort of the convergence of audience migrating from one platform to another. And the show was like I said, a significant success. So that led to 2 other movies and 25 half hours of television. A lot of content was created off of that initial sort of success. And we started in a very traditional manner, starting to represent generation 1 of YouTube talent. They all sort of came to our shores based on that early success. And so we represented Freddie Wong, Epic Mealtime, Toby Turner, Ray William Johnson. These are all names that if you were a young, 16, 18-year-old person, you probably are very familiar to you at that time. And so what we started to see then, as the firm, we started to see what was happening in the emerging sort of MCN marketplace. So we saw the makers and the full screen were just starting. And we looked at the business model and it seemed really interesting. And it seemed like the direct to consumer opportunity, frankly, when we were talking about the thesis of the collective, this really matched what we were envisioning. And so we decided to sort of pivot our business, our representation business, into starting an MCN. And very quickly, it became clear that this was going to be, the business to put all your efforts in. And so my partners and I had a series of discussions, and we decided that that's what we're going to do. And so that, we pivoted, and that became Studio 71, which you so elegantly described in your intro.
That's incredible.
Yeah. And then now with Underscore, when 10 years later, right, just the difference in time from when we started what became Studio 71 to today, the market's really different, right? So what was a YouTube page where maybe you did some brand deals and maybe you sold some t-shirts, and if you were lucky, there was some IP that you could do or something like that. Today, that world is much more complex, right? You have 5, 6, 7 different platforms that you probably need to be on, right? You need to be on YouTube and TikTok and Instagram and Snapchat and Facebook. Then you need to probably have a Discord server. And if you're a gamer, you need to be on Twitch, and you need all these community tools and things like that. So the world of the creator has gotten increasingly complicated and sophisticated. There are billions of dollars in advertising trying to reach these consumers through this talent base, right? And then you have tons of entrepreneurial business opportunities, because what works for corporate America also works on the creator's account. So there's many startups coming looking to sort of differentiate through marketing their product, their service, their thing through this type of creator. And so we believe that a more sophisticated, a larger, the opportunity is sort of shifted back to representation, and that, we're sort of setting about trying to build sort of one of the leaders in this space, working with a whole host of talent. So whether you're a TikToker or a gamer, we would like to have the people and the skill sets and the capabilities to help you grow your business. And I think just while we're on that sort of topic, and then I'll sort of shut up, is the reality. There's a big difference between a successful musician and a movie star and a very successful digital creator. Most digital creators don't, when they partner with a platform or with a brand, they're fully responsible for the execution, right? And so when a movie star goes and works for Netflix or does a big movie with a studio, there's an entire apparatus that's set up to make everything happen. And in this world, everyone's sort of, you're very much on your own. And we believe that sort of that manager relationship built with and supported with a pillar of services and infrastructure can really help support that creator in all their execution needs and endeavors as they sort of go through sort of the process of growing their businesses.
Absolutely. I think you said it so eloquently, actually. I'm going to say thank you so much for sharing that. It's incredible. I think there was so much foresight in that. You're seeing a platform like YouTube in 2010. I think many people were thinking this might be just somebody, posting puppy videos or home videos. So that they're having the foresight to saying that this can be great business for us, and really going all in is incredible. I really want to talk about this. So the creators economy, I've heard you talk about this. I would like you to explain what this means to you.
Yeah. So look, the creator economy in a very simplified explanation is, right, we have some of the largest communication platforms in the world: YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Twitch, right? And many others. Podcasting is another part of the creator economy. Substack for writers, things like that are enabling. And they're normally, just to, I think what's a big differentiator, normally, if you want to make a show for Netflix, you got to go ask permission. They have to agree to pay you for it, right? And then you give them what you do, and they go out and monetize it. In the creator economy, anyone, right, can get on these platforms and can create content and reach an audience and build some sort of relationship with a group of people on these platforms. And I think that's the world we are defining as sort of the creator economy. And what's happened is, what started out 10 years ago as a business that a lot of people ran out of their garages, today is, I think, one of the largest segments, if not the largest segment, of the entertainment and communication business, right? YouTube alone is going to pay out what, $10-15 billion this year to creators. Brands are going to spend another, depending on who you read, between 10 and 16 billion on advertising, not on the platforms, but with creators who will take their message direct to the consumer through their content. Then you have Facebook, Twitch, all these other, that's another several $billion in creator earnings. The podcast business is also a several $billion marketplace at this point, I believe. And so you add that up, you're looking at a $30-40 billion market for the creators. And the challenge, though, in the creator economy is not all creators are equal. There's so many people in this ecosystem. And so that's the sort of challenge, because that money is being paid out to it's tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of creators are earning that pie. And so for us to be successful, we sort of have to be pretty good at differentiating what I would call commoditized content from sort of the one-of-ones, right? We're still in the one-of-one business. That's what we're trying to identify, is who's that person in whatever genre or vertical that they're operating that can break through. And so hopefully that's a clear definition of the creator economy. I kind of went back to how I'm thinking about it, but There you go.
No, it's perfect. It was very clear. And in fact, I think we would agree. I mean, many people watching today and listening to you are saying, yes, I totally understand what Reza is saying. I mean, for years, when I used to work on a TV show called America's Funniest Home Videos, and there's a whole set, and there's camera people, and there's producers, there's the line producer, people who change the script on the fly. But when you are a creator today, or like you talked about, the vast majority of independent creators have to do everything, right? From finding the platform to the lighting to the camera and everything else. It just seems so it can be very overwhelming if this is not your day job. But you said, you were able to identify these creators very early on. So talk about to this, if you can, about how underscore talent plays a role in the creators economy. Obviously you're dominant, you're definitely, big player in this space. um what value do you think that you are offering most to your creators, and what are you excited about for the next stage?
Absolutely. I would say there's several opportunities we provide our clients. So the biggest one and the most obvious one, and sort of what I would call the table stakes to doing what we do. So we act as sort of a fiduciary for our clients. So we represent our clients' interests with all the platforms and all the brands that they're going to sort of interact with over the course of a year. And we sort of help try to come up with a strategy such that they're progressing their business along, right? So making sure that the creators we're working with are well covered in the advertising market is a core part of what we do. So brand deals is a significant part of it. But like I said, I would call that table stakes. The next key part of it is making sure that their content is on as many platforms as possible that make sense, and that they're maximizing their revenue opportunities by doing that. And sometimes we do that as a service, and other times there's third parties we partner with that can do that service better, than us, given a very particular thing. So we try to figure out what is the production support they need such that their content can be in as many places as possible, and that the talent can focus on the platforms that matter the most for them, and everything else sort of happens, automatically in the background. That's another sort of, I think, baseline activity. And then look, as you progress through, as the numbers grow, as you sort of prove that your audience is you can convert your audience, then I think things get really interesting. And so what are the business opportunities beyond just the content that you can leverage, right? Is it time to set up a subscription business, right, for your core fans? Is it time to start a merchandising line? Is it time to start a business that you're interested in? Those are all the things that we're sort of helping navigate and sort of put into a plan. So there's a framework where year one, it's one thing, and you're sort of continuing to see growth around your business. So that's how we sort of interact with our creators, which means we need to know not all the players, but about as many of the players in the market, whether they're startups looking for access to this creator class, whether it's advertisers looking for access to this creator class, or whether it's the large platforms that are looking maybe not for access, but looking to find opportunities on their platforms that make sense for all their initiatives. And we're usually front and center trying to present those opportunities to them.
Got it. So, let me ask you this. I'm thinking a lot of people are listening to you and saying and wondering, when you think about your ideal client, what does your ideal client look like?
Look, we're pretty diverse. So content, we have a team that's focused on esports. We have a team that's just focused on culinary, which we think is a really, exciting space. And culinary on TikTok is, super exciting for us in terms of just how fast it's growing and what we're seeing there. We have a really vibrant kids and family business. And we have a lot of other personalities and people doing really interesting things. We have a bunch of animators and people like that we work with. So content itself genre is not a particular thing that we have any bias one way or the other to. We're very open. We love things that resonate with people. And I would say, so look, I think in a very simplified way, our ideal client is somebody who intuitively understands how to create community, right, through their content, knows how to engage their community through content, and kind of has sort of the final brand meter, and knows what will and won't work inside that community. And that client, and they have aspirations to create businesses and things like that. That is the ideal client for us, is somebody who really understands that this is a two-way relationship with fans, and that if you sort of serve them right and loyally, that there's a ton of opportunity to be unlocked from there. And I think there's some creators that really get that, and some who just somehow fall into this. And I think the ones that have long-lasting careers are the ones who really have a firm grasp on what their audience is looking for, why they're there, and what opportunities are right to present to them.
Love it. Thank you. Well, let's talk about this. I think creators themselves, I'm sure, think of themselves as entrepreneurs as well, right?
Very
But
much so.
right, and entrepreneurs and businesses and brands want to reach that next eyeball, that next consumer, that next generation, or even the present generation, and generate more income and revenue for their business. So if you're working with a brand now, right, and an advertiser, um, how can they get more involved in the creator economy if they're not presently having a big presence there?
I mean, look, I think what happened during the pandemic, right, where it was very hard to shoot commercials, but this market kept on chugging along, right? So these were people who were making content with very small teams or as a family unit or at their home. That a lot of brands have shifted in. I don't know over my decade if there is a company we haven't worked with on some fundamental level in the space, and I'm sure there is one, but you'd be hard pressed to find it. I think the challenge that a lot of mainstream advertisers still have with the space is how to do it at scale and how to really get the most value out of it. Because when you think about P&G or you think about even Nike, I mean, they're buying such large impression loads and there's so much volume they need to sort of sustain their brands on a lot of levels. And I think they struggle with how to just get the volume of content out there. And I think part of that solution or one way that the larger advertisers who again are looking to do something that replicates what they're doing on the ad side or replicates what they're doing on TV, I think they really have to sort of really simplify what they're looking for and buy it at a much more scaled level. That's kind of how I'm thinking. Large brands, the biggest challenge is really how do they scale it, and I think a lot of it comes from the need to control every element of it. I think that's the challenge that they face, and so some of the larger brands are challenged that way, but most that we deal with, over the last decade, it's gone from very complicated to net today. It's a very easy execution. There are challenges with it, like all advertising, there are challenges with. But the challenges are pretty like run of the mill and just sort of part of the business at this point.
Okay.
So
Yeah. Well, I'd love to ask you this, what are you most excited about? What type of content? Are we talking video, which obviously we know you have a lot of background with YouTube, video? Is it audio? We know podcasting, but now also live audio, right? Audio events. Or is it traditional social, or is it really a combination of all three? Which to you right now do you feel like is so relevant?
Well, look, video, vertical video, like if you're gonna is probably becoming the dominant format of video consumption on the internet, right? So that essentially TikTok and Instagram Reels and YouTube Shorts and even Snapchat, even though it's a slightly different way of using it, the editing is probably a little different in terms of how you deliver content, has a similar perspective. And so vertical video, if you're saying where's all the energy at, where's every platform spending every moment of every day, where should creators be at? I would say vertical video is what's happening today and probably what will be happening in the future. The other reality, right? The financial reality is that horizontal video, for lack of for traditional video or YouTube video or whatever, that is still the economic engine that is powering a lot of the internet's earnings when it comes to video. So I wouldn't count it out. It's a significant revenue stream for Facebook and YouTube and others. And so that's the big tension. But all the platforms, if you were starting today, vertical video is literally the only thing you need to focus on. It's where all the action is, and
Wow.
all the audience attention and all the growth.
Well, Reza, it's amazing. I heard you say, traditional like YouTube. I think many people are watching and listening and saying YouTube. I still think that is something is really, really new. But now vertical video is, if you're going to start investing your time and really honing in, that's an area to be focused on. Thank you so much, Reza, for sharing that with us. I know there's something that talk about a Creators House partnership. What is this? Is it something that you can share with us?
Sure. Yeah, we recently partnered with Live Nation to do a creator house. I think there's a lot of creator houses in the market. So the concept of putting 8 people in a home, I don't think is new or frankly, super innovative. The innovation we're bringing to it is we're marrying, sort of 8 creators who we're really excited about, who we think have really strong and unique voices. With the opportunity to be part of like significant pop culture zeitgeist moments through the power of the sort of the Live Nation network, right? So we were on the field at the Super Bowl post game, which is a pretty unique, very, very rarefied sort of place to be. They just went to the Kanye concert in Miami and got a whole, tour of the set and the environment, which was pretty awesome. They just spent the weekend at the Okeechobee Festival in Orlando, and they're going to go, throughout the course of this year, they'll spend, I don't know, the majority of their weekends at these large, pretty interesting cultural moments in music and live entertainment. And we think that'll be a really unique sort of feature to what we're doing. And the second piece is we're putting a pretty hefty commitment on the production side. So we think we're gonna be accelerating sort of the creative output of these creators over the course of the next month or two as we sort of get this thing dialed in and moving in the right direction. So we're really excited about it. It's called Last to Leave.
Yes.
The hashtag is L2L, and we're feeling good about it.
Well, that's exciting.
Yeah.
Hashtag LTL. We'll have to follow that hashtag very carefully then. That's exciting. I mean, I'm sure brands love this because basically when you're bringing in such large creators with such large audiences, even before the event begins, you know that the stature of that audience, that eyeball, is going to be so significant. So exciting times, Reza. Do you ever get tired of what you're doing?
I mean, look, no, the answer is no. I love what I'm doing. There's always a new adventure every day. It's kind of interesting.
So 5 years from now, what do you see? What are you excited about?
5 years from now, that's a really good question. I would like to see, because look, we started this business in the middle of a pandemic, and today we're 40 people. We still don't have an office location, so I'd like to see us in a headquarters and in a proper setting. Hopefully this year, we can do that. But more long term, there is a lot to be done on the service side of the creator economy in terms of building support and businesses around creators that are sort of doing that. And so our goal 5 years from now would to be working, to have created the sort of the leading service offering for creators who are working in the creator economy. And we think, like I said, it'll start with management. We've started a content distribution syndication business that is nascent, and we expect to add other service layers as we go. So 5 years from now, I'd like to see a handful of those businesses be very mature and significant contributors to what we're trying to do. And frankly, hopefully that sort of next generation, because I think we're in the second generation of content creators, that third generation of content creators will have a company, or I'm sure there'll be other competitors to go to that can sort of act like that studio or like that partner who can really help sort of deliver the support they need to execute their vision.
Incredible. Did you have any doubts in the beginning? I mean, going from traditional entertainment, going from traditional music to this, and did you always believe from the beginning that this was going to get this big? Because I think a lot of people are listening now, like, wow, I wish I had done what he did in
Mhm.
2010. I wish during the earlier in the pandemic I had thought about this, and built this and recognize the fact that traditional media was struggling, right? We couldn't get people into studios safely, and yet and people thought that there would be less content, but really the DIY creators just created more content,
That's
and
right.
and people were sitting at home watching and consuming more content. Um, I'm just curious to see your own journey. What was your thought process there?
So I think, look, today I'm much more certain today than I was a decade ago when we made that transition. And
Hmm.
I was really fortunate, right? So my business partner was like-minded, right? In fact, most of my partners in this endeavor were highly like-minded in terms of where we wanted to go, and I think that's really critical when you're making a leap like that, particularly with a pre-existing business. So we had a very successful pre-existing business that we essentially pivoted into the space. So it was a little more complicated than just let's found something and start something. And so I had very supportive partners in that regard. And our investor was also highly supportive of this because he was looking for, I would like to believe a significant outcome, and this looked like the opportunity that could provide that. And I'm talking about the early days. Were there concerns and issues and pits in my stomach every night? We didn't know anything. I mean, we literally didn't know what we were doing, and we charged into that space. And it all seems easy, and there's all these anecdotes, but like building a sales team, a media sales team that actually people care about and want to talk to in the marketplace. That's not the easiest thing because everyone's trying to get the advertising money, and so you're competing with a lot of different interests.
Hmm.
Um, so there was a lot of things about it that were challenging and difficult, but I think collectively as a group, the attitude was we weren't going to lose, right? Which I think is really important. We had a bunch of self confidence, and we weren't going to be dumb about it. So we tried to do things as smartly as we could without a full vision of information that today it's a lot clearer what the business is than 10 years ago.
That's incredible. And so I think that's very inspiring because I think a lot of people are starting a business, that lack of clarity is totally normal. Okay. So I'm glad that you shared that, Reza. Let me ask you this. People are listening, they're watching, they're saying, how do I get on your radar? I'm excited. I think I could be one of your 200 one day.
Yeah.
What do you tell them to do?
Well, I mean, Captain Obvious here, you got to be making a lot of content. You got to be making consistently. And I think here's one thing that's true, whether you're the artist formerly known as Prince or whether you're Vlad and Nikki, one of the biggest channels we work with, or Selena Spooky Boo, or any number of other talent that the company works with. They all work harder than we do, and they're all self-reliant. The reality is there's only 24 hours in the day, right? And you can't replicate yourself as the sort of the entrepreneur, which is what I'm going to describe the creator as, or as the artist, right? You can't replicate yourself. But if you're the one, with that obsession, you will ultimately get to the destination you need to be at. And then people like us will show up at your door at the right time. And in the moment where we can add the most help. And there's no question that representation can be a force multiplier in a artist's journey. But if it's one of these things where you're waiting for me to give you some magic formula, that's not really how it works, right? You've got to do it on your own. You've got to understand your community. You've got to build the base. And then once that base is built, there's a lot of folks who can help sort of lift the boat and be part of the journey. And so I would say, um, focus on the content, focus on, really connecting with an audience, focus on building real scale around what it is you're doing. And the opportunities will flow naturally from that.
I love that. Amazing. Thank you so much for that. Let's segue a little bit because I think we're gonna ask Reza to join us for speed round.
Speed round.
I imagine many of you who are listening with us today are saying, I wish I could spend all day with Reza and just learn and suck up all this intelligence, right? All this experience. And I know I feel that way, but let's have some fun because these two questions, he doesn't know yet, but he's going to get 2 minutes to answer two questions. So Reza, you ready?
Okay. I got to keep my answers short.
Well, here's the first question. I think this is the one that I really want to hear about. And this is that now we know that you've had a ton of success. You've worked with some of the biggest players, in entertainment and in digital and everything in between. Tell us about, though, a challenge or disappointment that you've had and how this pivoted into your career.
Well, can I tell you something? Even your biggest successes, there's disappointment because success is not a single moment in time, right? It's an entire journey. So even in your quote unquote success, even in that journey, there's tons of disappointment, and that come along the way, that and obstacles, or however you want to describe these things, that you got to overcome. So in terms of like disappointments, I can remember when I was involved with the music from the Oh Brother movie, and the movie came out, and the soundtrack came out, and literally we sold like 10,000 records. Now, this is an album that sold 10 million copies. First week, though, we sold nothing. And I remember the conversation with the head of the label saying, "Are you going to support us?" And the answer was like, "Dude, what, you guys just bombed." Mm-hmm. And we got super fortunate. We'd sort of done the work. We'd made a documentary about this music and what it meant, and we'd done a concert special that we got on a PBS station. Not all, by the way, one PBS station in Oregon. Mm-hmm. And that thing went on like 2 weeks or 3 weeks after the initial launch of the movie, and the reviews were great. There was all this great hype about how great it is, but no one bought the record. And then out of one station in, I think it was Portland, it was, hey, we sold 8,000 copies in Portland. And then another PBS station picked it up, and so on and so on and so on. And cut to a year later, the lead artists were playing at the Grammys. We toured this thing a couple hundred shows, and the thing was a massive success. But the first, 6-8 weeks of it was kind of a bomb. And so that's the nature of success. If you looked at it just at the Grammys, that's one moment in time. That was a huge moment. That was a great moment. But there was many moments of failure in launching that project that happened. And so I think that's sort of, those things are actually, for me, the funnest stories, because there's usually a joke and a humor and a twist, and you won at the end. So those are the best parts of the process of completing a project, or the challenges.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great story. I think so many of us can relate to that, right? Initially, it's not a success, and it could take weeks, but it took a lot of grit. You continued to push. You went to Portland. That's incredible. We love that. All right, so then I got to ask you this, Reza. I want to know how you celebrate your wins. When something goes right, what do you do, and who do you celebrate with?
Well, I mean, it's funny. I celebrate with my team all the time, right? So we're very good. We like to be good at celebrating small wins with our team, so that everyone understands that those are, it's the little accomplishments strung out over a long period of time that is essentially, doing a good job for your clients or yourself or your career. So we try to be really good about doing that internally with our teams. Clearly, we celebrate successful milestones with our clients every time they're they're hitting these milestones. And then on a personal level, I mean, look, I've been in business with the same, folks for, almost 15 years now. And so the group of us, sort of my partners and I are incredibly close. And we oftentimes, when we have sort of bigger corporate milestones, sort of reflect together on what's going on. And then obviously my family. So, the hard part about celebrating wins is there's always something else to do, right?
Mhm.
There's always the next tier, and there's always the next level up, and all of that. And so, that's sort of one of the challenges in life, is remembering to do that. But I think we've tried to do that the best we can.
Well, that's good to hear. I'm glad. And I hope you will do more of that, Reza, because I think that, you deserve it. And so thank you so much for being so generous
Ready?
with,
Awesome.
yes.
I said
Yeah.
thank you. Yeah.
Oh, you are so sweet. Well, thank you so much for being here. What a treat to have you. We want to celebrate you. Where should people follow you, Reza?
I'm at Reza Izad on Twitter. Same on Instagram. I think there's an _ Reza Izad _ on IG. So yeah, you can follow me there if you want to.
Wonderful. Well, thank you. We definitely will. Well, thank you so much. I want to thank all of you for tuning in. I see so many of you. You see Derek and Joshua, and wow, so many people today. Very, very busy. And thank you, Carlos, for joining in as well. It is such a treat to have you here with us. We are going to be doing something special later this week, so I'm so glad that you're here with us. And so thank you so much for watching, sharing the program. Please take a moment to share this program with your friends and family. And as a reminder, you can find full episodes of Level Up with Winnie Sun on NASDAQ, the CW San Francisco, Amazon Fire, Roku, and a whole bunch more. But most importantly, don't forget that we also launched the Yes Factor on the LinkedIn Podcast Network. That was actually just went live a couple weeks ago. So we're very excited about that. So hopefully you get a chance wherever you tune into podcasts. We would love to see and get your feedback there. Please tune in again. We'll see you back again tomorrow. Stay well. Can't wait to talk to you soon. Bye-bye now.
Awesome. Bye.